Final game in our first match, Cloud9 Tempest versus compLexity.Black. Now the next team to take down a Nexus will lock in a spot in the finals and a berth in the summer promotion tournament. But before we head into that game 3, I'd like to welcome back Voyboy to the desk. So bringing it back to 1-1, compLexity.Black looked a lot better that game.
Yep, definitely. They picked a better team comp. They picked up Soraka. They ran champions that made a lot of sense with it. They got Shyvana and Xin Zhao, both tanks, bruisers that get a lot of free armor and MR just passively from their kits. And then when you have a team comp with like multiple heal summoner spells, Soraka healing everyone, just a huge effective HP pool as a team overall, which just makes it really easy to just, as you saw, like brute force down fights and just keep running into them and just killing them all. And while the fights were a little bit slow paced, they would almost always come out ahead because it was kind of a war of attrition. You have a lot of supports on both sides. You have the Lulu giving effective health to everyone on one side, and then the Soraka healing all their tanks. Yeah. And usually we saw compLexity.Black come out ahead, which just helped secure the lead. Yeah, that comp worked really, really well for them. There's one thing that interested me, is I know we tend to see Sivir a lot with these like bruiser-focused comps. It's like it's all about the front line. I mean, obviously it worked with Caitlyn, but like, you know, as a member of Curse who's got a bunch of strats for themselves, like, why not just run Sivir here? So Sivir is an interesting champion. When she was reworked, she was really, really strong, and people were a little bit slow to realize that. But people realized that her kit's super good. She brings so much team utility, and honestly, compared to a lot of the AD carries, she was just the top pick. But now, when you pick Sivir, you kind of lose a lot of lane pressure. She got nerfed several times, so that's probably why a lot of people are straying away from her. And although she can make it through like the 2v1 phase and all that, you really can just go for a lot of like the safe AD carry options like Caitlyn and Lucian and stuff like that, which is why you don't see Sivir as much these days.
Yeah, and you also being kind of a veteran of the league scene have played a lot of best of threes. So when you have a game 2 like this that forces game 3, what kind of momentum actually carries through to the third game after a crushing victory from compLexity.Black?
Yeah, so the third game is really stressful. Everything's on the line, and you could have a lot of second guesses about like what happened in the last game, like should we try to run the same strat that worked for us in the first game? But honestly, when it comes down to it, you practice for so many games to come into this match, and you have to just keep a clear focused mind, just do the strategies that you practiced, and can make some last second swaps in the heat of the moment, because a lot of players are very like if you're feeling a champion, you're just like
West Rice has done that plenty in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Just like give me that champion, like I'm gonna try to carry. And honestly, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it's not. I think that compLexity.Black's a team that can make it happen, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them just come out strong in the third game.
Well, okay then. So actually, completely non sequitur question, but we were discussing it during the game. We saw Crystal and Flask twice now for the mid laners as like a second item buy. When do you pick that item up as a mid laner?
Yeah, so Crystalline Flask is an item that, for example, I think Bishu started with it in the Lulu vs Soraka matchup. That's a lane where if you start Duran's 2 pots on the Lulu, you're just going to get pushed in, and you're going to have to burn a lot of pots just staying in lane, because you're just taking residual harass from the creeps and the star calls that are falling on you when you're trying to CS. So the Flask definitely makes sense as a first time pickup. A lot of times, if you both start like Duran's 2 and no one has a Flask, a lot of times when you pick up a Flask, it's honestly just based on gold value. On the first back, you'll have X amount of CS. It'll just depend on how the game's going. If you got ganked, if the bot lane rotated mid to start pushing, and sometimes you'll have enough for like Flask and a ward. Sometimes you'll only have enough to get like boots. And honestly, when I pick up Flask, it's kind of just random. A lot of times you want to have some form of sustain when you get back to lane. Obviously, you want to have like your double Durans if you can and a bunch of pots, but sometimes you don't have enough gold for that. So you can just pick up the Flask to make up for that disparity.
Yeah, great. Boy, thank you very much. Actually, that was good answer to here. It's like when you can afford it, just put it in there if you can't get a Doran's. Well, guys, we're going to get ourselves into game 3.